Your support helps us bring you programs you love. Go to wyomingpbs.org, click on Support, and become a sustaining member or an annual member. It's easy and secure. Thank you.
As the state of Wyoming grapples with its COVID-19 response, the focus now turns to the role that the Wyoming Legislature will play, not just with the pandemic, but also in planning for a forecasted severe drop in state revenues. In a special Capital Outlook, Wyoming PBS sits down with the leadership of the Wyoming Legislature and asks what the citizens of Wyoming should brace for in the coming months. Capital Outlook starts now.
This program is supported in part by a grant from the BNSF Railway Foundation, dedicated to improving the general welfare and quality of life in communities throughout the BNSF Railway Service area. Proud to support Wyoming PBS.
By a grant from AARP, serving the needs and providing real possibilities for the over 50 population in Wyoming. AARP Wyoming. Proud to support Wyoming PBS.
And by Wyoming Humanities, celebrating our heritage, strengthening our democracy, and growing Wyoming's creative and cultural economy for over 50 years. Visit thinkwy.org.
And welcome to this special Capital Outlook. I'm Craig Blumenshine from Wyoming PBS, and we're going to get into a lot this evening, but certainly it's our pleasure to be joined by the majority leadership of the Wyoming Legislature, Majority Floor Leader Senator Dan Dockstader and Majority Floor Leader Dr. Eric Barlow. To you both, welcome to Capital Outlook.
Good to be here. Thank you.
There's so much to talk about. We are filming this on Thursday morning, a day before the special session, airing this, of course, on Friday evening. And I want to talk more about Wyoming's future than I do about the special session, but I do want to touch on that just a little bit. How has the preparation for the session been for you in this world of Zoom? Has it been effective, and can you legislate effectively this way?
Well, thank you for the opportunity to be here, and certainly a pleasure to be with my colleague, Majority Floor Leader Dockstader. Certainly, these are different times, and some will probably know by the lag time in my video feed that I'm further from the town than others. So technology happens to be one of those things that we need to work with to help prepare us for the upcoming work that we have, and just the day-to-day work that many people have, of course. It's happening in education. It's happening all across the state in many different ways. So technology, that's been a learning curve for many of us. And then just how to interact differently as we get prepared, i.e. a lot more emails, a lot more phone calls, less face-to-face, where we can really grind through the issues, if you will, and talk about the nitty-gritty. So I guess that's been the adjustments that I've noticed is technology, and then just, not the ability to sit down and say, okay, and pass papers back and forth and say, what does it look like to you? How do you read this? So those would be the two immediate things. But I think at least my perspective, for the House of Representatives, we've done a lot of preparation. I think we've had practice. We had a mock session yesterday. Leadership is meeting and visiting multiple times a week. Committee chairman at least once a week for several weeks. So I feel good about at least the quality and the type of preparation. Now, all the best plans can go awry, but I think we have been doing our best to kind of get the process and the technology in place so we can do our work effectively. Thank you.
Senator Dockstader?
Again, thank you for having us. And I'll be upfront. I miss the face-to-face, but we are making it work. And maybe the bright spot as we go into some of these meetings we've already had, we'll have numbers up around 400 plus. That's new. We're bringing people, their involvement, we're bringing them into the meetings. The part we got to work on now is to make sure they have an opportunity to respond. That we put them in a queue and line them up, bring them in to respond. So I hope as we go back to whatever the new normal is, that we can still have people in the meetings, and we can still broadcast throughout the state, so those hundreds can still watch us, maybe a few thousand, depending on the topic. But actually, through all of this, we've discovered we probably even increase the audience numbers. We just got to make sure we increase the audience participation.
And both of you participated in a listening session last week, which I found fascinating, and goes to your point that maybe there are some some interesting new opportunities here for you to interact with members of the public and certainly your colleagues that maybe didn't exist before. But I want to move forward here and have you maybe look towards summer and fall. First of all, what is your perspective on additional special sessions? And certainly Wyoming is facing unprecedented budget shortfalls. Its economy is just different, certainly now than it was pre-COVID-19. What are your priorities and how do you think that these additional special sessions may play out, and what will the topics be that are going to be so important to our state? Senator Dockstader, let me chat with you first.
All right. Well, obviously, the additional special sessions, we'll see how we can participate, where the COVID counts are, all of that, whether we have the testing available. I hope as time moves on that we can increase our testing to have more events around the state, and this thing kind of evens out a little bit, because people are anxious to get back together. We still got to do it safely, but at the same time, as we move into this, there are topics that still need to be addressed. We've taken care of the first things first with this first run that we're in the middle of now, but as we move into that second run, I would like to start to say, okay, what are we going to do to move us out to those 4 years in the future? Have we got a good minerals plan? Have we taken that comprehensive energy strategy and lined it out in the new situation where from late 1800s, first time we've ever had, we have no more pads. We have no more oil drilling. We got to get back to that. We got to get back to what Wyoming stands for in the mineral industry. So we have to have a good comprehensive energy strategy. I'd like to see that start to unfold, not only in the next special session, but in the session to come. That's, in my mind, a priority, because that's what finances Wyoming. We can pretend that other things will help us. People talk new taxes, but the very thing that drives the Wyoming engine is the mineral economy, and we have to keep that going. There are other matters that we have to take care of right away that we're doing now. First things first, second things first. We got to take care of our small businesses. They've been devastated across the state. We've got to get them back in action. Then we got to address healthcare. We shut down those hospitals. We had an extremely successful hospital, rural healthcare hospital, 22 beds, profitable, 3 state-of-the-art surgical centers, orthopedic surgeons, general surgeons, family practitioners, 24/7 care. It all came to a halt, and we sat there waiting for a COVID patient. Never came, but it cost us about $3.5 to $4 million in just 1 month. And it cost us 74 jobs for rollout. We got to put our healthcare back together. That's a priority. And then how are we going to address education? I know we're doing it virtually. We're doing it at home, but we got to find a way. We put a lot of money into education. Let's make sure we're doing it right. With that,
we'll talk about education briefly here in just a minute. But Dr. Barlow, I want to ask you the same question. Wyoming's economy is in free fall, essentially, as are many other states across the country. What is your focus? Senator Dockstader puts a lot of weight still behind an energy strategy to have Wyoming look forward in its future. Do you agree with that? And what's on your mind?
Well, I certainly thank you, Senator Dockstader. He brings up that hometown, that what he feels in his community. And today I do a weekly call with our businesses in our community. There's 70 to 90 businesses owners that are on this call every week, and I just try to get a sense of the things they're dealing with and what might help them and how they're helping themselves and each other. So that street business thing is so important. To the energy, as you probably know, my district is an energy district. Coal mines, oil wells, uranium, gas wells. It's a big deal in my community. Jobs. We've lost hundreds of jobs in the last weeks, both in the extraction industry, production industry, and in the railroad too. That's associated with moving that product. So it's a big deal in my community to have a stable energy economy. The ups and downs, and I grew up here, so I've seen the boom and bust before, and we always talk about the boom and bust. Stability in the energy economy, stability in the energy jobs is something that I hope we can get to, because the roller coaster is what's really tough communities, on families, and on our state coffers. The next one, which I don't live quite as close to a tourism hotspot like the senator does, with the west side of the state and all the natural beauty there. But there's a lot of folks that come through the northeast Wyoming for Devil's Tower, for some of the monuments in South Dakota, et cetera. So tourism, for a lot of those businesses, those restaurants and hoteliers, et cetera, tourism, now we're just getting into that season, is how do we bridge that? So we're going from a place right now where we had an artificial, if you will, shutdown. And now how do we get things open and then actually help those folks go beyond where they are or could be quicker? Part of that is with this next session, and the second thing second, as you, Senator Dockstader, mentioned. But part of it is that longer term. What do we want our kids and our grandkids to have here? And the discussions that we have now help set that stage, help hopefully give that opportunity for those, not just the next generation of businesses, but the next generation of our citizens.
For either of you, you've heard all of the talk about the need for Wyoming to change its tax structure, to diversify its revenue streams. Are all of those topics non-starters for you both, or is there an interest to look at additional revenue streams for the state of Wyoming? Who would like to respond first?
I'll just briefly and then turn it over to Floor Leader. But at this point, we've got the lowest property taxes out there. We've got low sales tax. There may be some angles there. We haven't got a corporate income tax. Pre-COVID, it was hard to consider taxes. I'm not saying that it would be acceptable afterwards, but you look at something like that wind energy tax, for shipping, 85% of our product out of the country, and we're giving up vast, beautiful landscapes. I call them beautiful, so I travel across the state. I love the fact that there's nothing out there and it's beautiful, and I love the smell of the sage after the rain, but now we're seeing those landscapes change with big windmills and all of that. We're shipping that power out of the state. Could someone else outside of the state be helping us fund our schools, our infrastructure a little bit better? Could we look at that? Not saying that we will, but we've got to do something different, because we'll run into a situation where people are going to find a different new normal. We won't be able to fund the government that they were accustomed to, which may not be bad, because it helps us simplify. Those cuts were going to come. We kept saying they're going to come. We're going to make a soft landing. Now we have to make that decision. Here it is right now.
Leader Barlow, what about you?
So I think that all options have to be on the table, i.e. we make our government more efficient. And maybe that's smaller government. Maybe that's delivered in a different way. Maybe that's more local folks taking care of the things that the state has traditionally done. But when we start talking about where the big pots of general funds go, we got to be candid about where they go. They go to the Department of Health. They pay for nursing care homes. They pay for folks with developmental disability. They pay for prisons. They pay for higher education, not just K-12, which is a separate pot of money, but community colleges, et cetera. And they go to cities, towns, and counties. So when you really want to get to our budget and see where the big money goes, Majority Leader Dockstader is right. People are going to have to either expect and receive less services, or we'll have to have some other conversations about how we make up for some of those revenues that are potentially not there. Now, I would like to think that oil goes back to $60 and it's stable there. Coal production and price is stabilized, and we find a place where that we don't have to make some of those decisions that folks find challenging. But I don't know how that lands, and I think we have to consider what our citizens want for services. When I listen to the calls, when I get the calls on the phone, and I get the listen to the businesses, they still want their roads to be well maintained. They still want infrastructure that works for their water, sewer, et cetera. They still want law enforcement. They still want the basic services. And so we have to just find that balance of what that is, and take care of our elderly, and take care of our children, and educate them, et cetera. So it's a big conversation, and we have fits and starts of taking it on, because we have a boom, and then we have a bust, and then we crawl out of that boom. This one might be a little different. It may be actually different. We have to have a longer term conversation about what we will do to adjust, one, the size of our government, what we do, And two, if we want the government to get the government that people expect or want, we're going to have maybe have some conversation about how to fund that differently.
And I wish that we had more time to visit. We will continue these discussions throughout the summer and the fall. Lots of work that the legislature certainly has to do, but I want to thank you both for taking the time in a very busy time for joining me today on Capital Outlook.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you, Craig.
Up next is a visit with the minority leadership of the Wyoming Legislature. Stay tuned. And as Capital Outlook continues, it's our pleasure now to be joined by the minority leadership of the Wyoming Legislature, Senator Chris Rothfuss and Representative Cathy Connolly. To both of you, welcome.
Thank you, Craig. Good morning.
Good morning.
And I think it's going to be good evening when it's aired, but good morning as well.
No, that's great. We are filming this Thursday morning in front of the special session that you both will participate in. And we can talk briefly just about that in a general context of how has it been being a legislator in these unprecedented times. But generally, we want to focus on longer term issues that are certainly looking both of you right in the face as you contemplate what a summer and fall and then next session might look like. You had a very interesting, to me, listening session that you both participated in last week, and I found that fascinating. Just the thought of doing that, I thought was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Craig, we're learning. I mean, honestly, we're learning. How do we do this, right? I mean, we got out of session, and literally we had one case the night before that we got out of session. I mean, COVID-19 was something that was happening elsewhere. We were paying attention to it, but honestly, the state only had one case. And we were within days thrown into the need for a state response and the desire that it be a broad-based response, meaning bringing the legislature back in, and therefore we on Management Council being able to figure out how to do that. We have always had at the forefront, how do we engage people? And you know this because PBS has, just in the past 2 years, has begun live streaming some of our interim committee meetings. That's new. So the question of how do we include others was one of the first things that we thought about. And so we tried different things, and you probably watched some of them work and not work, and chat functions and how do you do questions. But one of the suggestions at the end was, well, hang on, we're going into this special session. Bills are going to be moved to committee of the whole, meaning that there's not going to be kind of a committee meeting with public testimony. How do we get that kind of input that the public might want to do? And it was the listening session. So we tried that.
Mike Madden on Wildfile wrote a very interesting piece that I want to direct our viewers to on the history of special sessions. And I think that the history involved in that really shows that many of historically special sessions had to do with fiscal crises. And that's where I want to bend our discussion now. Mm-hmm. Wyoming's in the middle of one, and it is just starting to be felt. And in fact, the special session that you've been in today, maybe perhaps into tomorrow, is not going to be as tough maybe on the state of Wyoming and the heavy lifting that you have to do. All that's coming later for you. What's on top of your mind as you look forward to the summer and the fall and the next special session relative to dealing with what can only be described as catastrophic declines in state revenue?
Well, we've structured these special sessions, and we say it in plural, although we don't know how many that will be. We wanted to begin with a first things first approach, which is what we're doing this week. And it really is an attempt to make sure that we're capable of getting federal funds out to the people that need it the most as quickly as we possibly can. So the legislation that we're bringing forward, there are currently 4 bills, is really focused at exactly that, making sure that the governor has the capacity to implement programs and to fund programs in a manner that is deemed appropriate in the short term to shore up the needs of the state. So that's human healthcare needs and the fact that we have a great deal of need there, and we'll have more ahead of us unquestionably. We have struggling businesses, and we need to make sure that funds are moving towards them to stabilize those businesses, that we don't have an economic crisis that's further driven by the fact that we have a large number of bankruptcies. We need to recognize that we do have a tremendous unemployed population right now. And again, we'll have more ahead. We need to ensure that those people are taken care of in a way that they never have been before, bringing more resources there. And then just general support programs. What else are we missing? What should we be doing? And where do those funds need to go? For a simple example, just paying for these personal protective equipment needs of companies and hospitals and cities, towns, and counties, all of the different organizations that have changed the way they do business.
But what about the revenue shortfalls? What's on your mind about dealing with Wyoming in a post-COVID-19 time, which will come at a time when Wyoming's not going to be the only state that's going to be just reeling from these troubles that are ahead?
Yeah, I mean, Craig, that's a good question. And we will, as Senator Rothfuss just talked about, we have immediate obligations to take care of, but in the near-term future, we absolutely have to address our revenue shortfalls. We knew that this was coming, and regrettably, we in the legislature didn't do much about it. We knew that there is kind of limited appetite nationally and internationally for coal. I mean, the market appetite just isn't there anymore. Oil and gas. The dollar figure for barrel of oil plummeted to below zero, all right, last month. All right, kind of back up a little bit now, but in no way are we getting the revenues that we anticipated. Close to 70% of our state's revenue comes through the extractive industries. We can't operate without changing how we think about where we get our revenues from. And this is something where we can't cut government spending in order to make up that difference. That is over and done with. We did that years ago. We're already reeling in some sectors from those cuts. So we have to take very seriously our obligation to diversify our revenue streams.
Senator Rothfuss?
Yeah, to follow on that, there's no way that we can achieve long-term prosperity through austerity in the state. And that's just something that other states have shown the way for us in recent years, with crises that were less severe than what we're facing right now, certainly. But when they had budget shortfalls, there's traditionally been two approaches: invest in your state or cut programs. All of the states that have cut programs ended up in educational crisis, lawsuits, and horrible results that hurt the people of those states. The states that reinvested in themselves have been more successful. And we've seen other states do similar things where you have to restructure an economy around new industry. You've been hearing us on this program say these words for as long as we've been in the legislature, that we know in the future we have to diversify the economy. We know that we also have to diversify the tax structure to achieve the state interests of that diversified economy. And we know that there's a tremendous amount of resistance to doing both of those things because it basically means talking about taxes in a serious conversation. So we're in a situation now where we've been pretending everything's going to be okay for quite a long time. We've had cash in the savings account and in reserves, and we've always been able to sort of cover things at the end of the budget. Unfortunately, now we're in an actual crisis where we're not going to be able to just pay cash for everything and work it out in the future. We're going to be substantially draining our reserves over these next few years. And beyond that, if we don't change and change dramatically, we will not be able to cover the programs that are essential.
Mm-hmm. Representative Connolly?
I just add to that, how do we go about thinking about that issue and what do we do about it? And for me, I always want our investments to be in people and what will help people. And that means that we have to have a robust educational system, right? We invest in education and we invest in our communities, right?
I want to interject right there. This fiscal shortfall is going to impact education. You both sit on the education committees of your respective bodies, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And again, when we talk about kind of our funding structures and our funding shortfalls, we have a school foundation program account, right? And that is drying up honestly. Our ability for school capital construction kind of went away with no longer having coal lease bonus money. We absolutely have to think about what used to be dedicated revenue streams for education. But that doesn't mean to me that we just slash education. First, we have a constitutional obligation. And it's honestly one of our bragging rights in Wyoming is the quality of our education, the equity, the accessibility, the opportunities that we give to students from K through 12 and beyond. We have to continue that. Are there mechanisms that we can look at in order to kind of save some money? Sure, we could consolidate school districts, for example, right? Less school districts, less administration, things like that. There's possibilities there. But we also both sit on the School Finance Recalibration Committee. It's obligated to meet every 5 years, take a look at our model, right? We'll be taking a good look at that. But I want to be sure that we kind of maintain, if not enhance, kind of those educational opportunities.
And following up on that, Craig, we've been talking again for years about the idea of the cost of education and how we need to scale that back and that we pay a lot per child in the state of Wyoming. We've been incredibly successful in K-12 education in the state of Wyoming. There are things that we can do to improve it, but those are really things along the lines of early childhood education. And extending programs. The idea that we'll be able to cut our way to a better K-12 education system in this crisis is absurd. It was absurd before. It is just not accurate. Go ahead.
Excuse me, Senator.
I was going to say there are small things we could probably do to improve efficiency, but we're talking on the 5% of total budget kind of level. And we'll argue about that 5% of total budget level for as long as we're allowed to. But when you step back and take a look at our current situation and take a look at our future needs, arguing over 5% of the budget is not going to help anyone. It's not going to solve the problem. Again, we need fundamentally changed revenue sources for education as well as for the general fund.
Well, I thank you both. I know this has been a busier than planned time for you. I think that's probably an understatement, but I know how busy you are right now, and I appreciate you taking a moment to join us and to be with our viewers this evening.
And just a special note, throughout the summer and fall and even into the early winter, Wyoming PBS will continue to bring you periodic updates on Capitol Outlook about issues that are facing the state of Wyoming and certainly Wyoming's legislature. Thank you for joining us this evening. Be well.
This program is supported in part by a grant from the BNSF Railway Foundation, dedicated to improving the general welfare and quality of life in communities throughout the BNSF Railway service area. Proud to support Wyoming PBS.
By a grant from AARP, serving the needs and providing real possibilities for the over 50 population in Wyoming. AARP Wyoming. Proud to support Wyoming PBS.
And by Wyoming Humanities, celebrating our heritage, strengthening our democracy, and growing Wyoming's creative and cultural economy for over 50 years. Visit thinkwy.org.